But there is a small problem, because basically we have these things in front of us which are like obscuring the view, right? So we're not able to actually see the heart unless we rotate it, and we need to do something with that. In order to do that, we need to click the scissors icon, right? So we click it, and now we have the options connected to the scissors. First of all, we have 3 different shapes. The first one, the default one, is the lasso. The lasso is the most commonly used one because it allows you to define a shape, in whichever fashion you want it to be, right? So I'm clicking on a 3D view, and as I'm moving the cursor, I'm drawing the green shape. It can be very strange one, and then after I release the left mouse button, we have 3 different options here. We have an option to cut it, so we cut the area which is marked green. We have a clear selection, so after I click that, I will just, the selection will just disappear. And we have also a cancel selection, which will, as far as I remember, just, not only it won't cut anything from the model, but also it will close the scissors tab. So let me see it. Right, so after I click the cancel selection, the scissors panel hides, and basically after you click the 3D window, you're back again, like able to rotate it, right? So what we actually need to do would be to cut the outside over here, right? And in order to do that, properly, we'd like the view to be from the top. So let's see another icon, the views. And now here we have different projections, right? So those are the buttons that we click to restore the original position or the original projection of the model. So if we want to see it from the front, we click front. If you want to see it from the left, from the right, from the bottom, from the back, from the top, all of this, just changes the projection instantaneously. So there are also other options, the mirroring. So the mirroring allows you to flip the image as if there was a mirror, right? So actually, why do we need that? Because normally, who would want to have the view flipped? So we have it because some of the data that we load, it saves the orientation of the data flipped. So in order to do that like quickly and to just very quickly change it to the normal view, we can click it right to left, and as you can see, it's flipped. And it's also checked in here, so you can see that it's flipped here, but also you can see it by looking at this guy, right? So after I click the right left, his right and left color, his right and left half has a different color. And this is the same if we clicked top with the bottom. Now his top side will have a different color and the bottom another one. And the front and back the same. His back is, let's say, white, and his front is red. So of course we can combine a few of them. So if we combine the front and back, and for example top and bottom, you can see that not only does he have a half of his back in a different color, but also his back and his front in a different color, right? So as you can see, this little guy in the HoloLens glasses is like a visual indicator of whether we have the data flipped, but also to be able to easily see from which side we're looking at right now, because this was the original view just as I loaded the data, right? So it doesn't tell us a lot, but looking at this guy, we know that we are looking at his front, right? And as I'm rotating the guy from the left, from the back, from the right, the guy is rotating as well, and we can see from which side we're looking at the model, right? So coming back, we'd like to have the top view of our model, and we'd like to cut this thing over here, right? So just because I told you about the lasso, we also have like a square or a rectangle shape. So after I click that and I click on the 3D view, I can, draw rectangles or squares, and I'm able to cut those parts. But because I don't want to do it right now, I will click clear selection because I don't want the scissors tab to hide, right? So I'm clicking clear selection right now. And then just to show you the circle or the ellipse tool. So this one is actually quite useful sometimes because sometimes, we want the area to, for example, in the middle to stay, or we want the area in the middle to be cut. So this is quite widely used as well. And there are some other options over here. So for example, just as I have the lasso option active, there are two options in which I can cut the outside wall, right? The skin. So I can either mark the skin and cut it. So I will do it right now. Okay, so I'm drawing. Okay, like this. And I'm drawing the shape over here. And now I can click cut. And because the area here, the area radio button, the cut inside is toggled on, I will cut inside of the shape that I drew, right? So I'll show you that. Cut. Okay, and now we have it cut, right? But there is also another option to mark everything but the thing that I want to disappear, right? So for example, I can mark the inside here. So I'm marking the inside. Okay, it's even easier. And I want everything outside of that, which I marked, to disappear. So I'm clicking right now to cut outside. And now I'm clicking the cut in the 3D view, and it will disappear, right? So now the thing is that sometimes you cut too much, or you cut so much that you actually don't remember what is left, and you just want to have some kind of a reminder. So we have this show cut area option, which marks in red the area which was cut, right? So you can see that as you're sliding as well, you see which parts are cut, if they are important or not, if you need to redo the cutting operation. It's just a thing which lets you know what was cut and what was left. Okay, and then there is another functionality. Of course, there is a reset, right? So if I click the reset, then we have it back again. But let me cut it once more, right? So I'm doing it like this: cut outside, cut. Okay, and we're good. And I know that you don't have that version of the application, but I believe that next week we'll be releasing a new version of the application, which I'm currently showing to you. And it has some nice new features. So for example, because we want this application to be used to also plan the operation, you want to be able to load the cut state of the model just before the operation, but you don't want to, do the marking again, cut all those things. There is a possibility to save the cut state, right? So you're saving it. I believe that, it saves in a CLH state, and you're able to save it and then load by just clicking the, if I saved it, there would be a file. Let's see if it's good here right now. So file will be saved to, okay, saved states. You can change, of course, the location of that saved state, but let's just click it like this, save. Okay, file saved successfully. And let's reset and then load cut state. And there is a file over here, and we can load it. And you see that instantaneously I have loaded the cut model, right? So this is a feature which is in that 2.4.2 version, which we'll be sending to you next week. Okay, so this is it when it comes to the scissors feature. The important thing to remember is that after you cut it, right? So let me just cut something more. Okay, I'll cut this. I cut it. Okay, and now I want to rotate the model, but as you see, I'm still drawing, right? So a few possibilities to do that. You can either cancel the selection and this will just close the scissors tab, right? Or another thing, we can just do the clear selection and just click the scissors icon, right? So when the panel is not active, we're back to rotating the model, right? So this is it. Do you have any questions at this point? Because I'd like it to, you know, be resolved if you have any.
No, it's okay. Everything is okay for now. Okay.
Okay. Perfect. Okay, so what else can we do apart from rotating the model? We can also zoom it in or zoom it out. So we do that using the scroll lock or the scroll wheel. The scroll wheel on the mouse. So we can zoom it in, right? And I believe it goes up to 1000%, so like a 10 times magnification. And we can also zoom out, and then yeah, up to 50%, so it just won't disappear. Another option is to click here on the zoom value, and there we have another slider which also allows you to zoom in. Okay, and now a question. If we're zoomed in here, but we want to see what was up, and we're like in this position, in order to pan around or to move the camera, so to say, we need to push the scroll wheel, okay? And with it pushed down, we're able to pan around the model, right? So like moving the camera. Okay, so let me go back to 100%, and we're in here. Okay, so now is I believe it's a good moment to actually show you the so-called preset functions.
Kuba,
So, yes.
excuse me. One question. Are you recording the training?
No, should I?
Yes.
Okay. I would just sure, no problem. Let me just set it up. So we can send it to you later on.
Okay.
There is a recording going on, and I don't know
Yes.
who started it.
Okay, so okay, I don't know.
Você iniciou a gravação. Marcel, my message when I put in the mouse over the red button, okay, I receive a message that Marcel da Almeida has begun the
Yes, I have it the same. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, but I started like 15 minutes ago, so we lost some.
But please keep recording. It would be great to have this later on as a support. Okay, thank you so much. Let's continue.
It says that it is recording since 38 minutes. So I believe from the start of the meeting. So I believe, you know, we'll just cut the start, and then everything should be included over there.
Okay. Great, man.
Okay, so as I said, the important thing, the transfer functions, right? We call it, or preset functions, so to say. So this is like a fancy name for something which is essentially a different way of coloring and shading the model, right? So for now, we can see that, okay, we have like the bones, which are white. We have like a heart muscle, which is in some brown shades and so on. But in our application, we're able to create our own transfer functions, which totally change the way that we see the model, right? So just to start, on the bottom bar of the application, you can see here there is something called CT chest contrast enhanced scaled. So this is a very long transfer function name. It's like our default transfer function, which basically tells you that it's pretty good for CT and also for the CT, which is contrast enhanced, right? So when we click this bottom bar, we see a lot of different coloring functions. And on the left, you can see like the gradients, which basically tells you which shades are present in that coloring function. And then we have a name on the right side of it, so that you're basically familiar with what data should be used with this coloring function. So now the thing is that we're able to create new transfer functions and also save the files which have our own sets of transfer functions. So let me just show you how to, for example, import such set, because those are older transfer functions and we have ones that are way better actually. So we click the presets, and then in the transfer function editor, after we go to the very bottom, we have a manage presets tab, let's say. We can click the load, and then after we click on the new presets JSON file, this is all saved in a JSON extension. So basically, we'll just provide to you the file with the preset functions. So at the you'll have to do it once at the start to just load it. Okay, then we have a preset file successfully loaded message. We close it, and then you can see that we have a different set of functions. And we can do it, we do it just once. If we want to go back to the original set of transfer functions, so the ones that you saw before, we can also click on the restore presets file. And if we want to save our own set of transfer functions, because as you maybe see, we have a transfer function editor, which I'll cover later on, but basically you're able to create your own ones, and then you can save it in your own JSON file and then just send it to whichever hospital needs it. So there is also such a possibility. So okay, we want to see this heart, right? So click the transfer function, and then we see a CT cardiac transfer function, right? And after I click that, you see that some things are more visible. This was the original one, or maybe even a different one from the older set of functions. But you can see that there are some vessels which are not that well visible. But after I click the CT cardiac, you can see it very clearly, right? So you see over here, and the whole heart color is a bit more like it should be, right? So a red one. So this is what the transfer functions do. They change the color, but they also we're also able to, for example, add some like graphic visible effects, for example. So after I click the presets tab, let me close this. We have some sliders over here. So we have a sampling, gradient, opacity, jitter, and some other functions as well. So the most important sliders for you, if you want to create a transfer function, is a sampling slider. So you see that the lower we go, the less like solid the model becomes, right? So it should be for sure above the 0 value. And then the more we boost it, the more visible are like the things that are very, very thin, right? So for example, you see here some vessels, right? Very, very thin, very small. Maybe not crucial, but it's important to know that we can boost it up by changing this setting, right? But it's also important to know that boosting sampling to higher values, I'd say that like between 0.8 and 1, it's a bit it's a bit harder on the computer, right? So it may slow down the rendering process, for example. So the saved values, I'd say, are, for example, I don't know, from however low we want to go to 0.7, maybe 0.8 if we really like have some problems with seeing some smaller things. But basically, I wouldn't recommend going above the 0.8. Also because the difference between, for example, 0.8 and 1 it's not that visible. It boosts a bit, but the computing power which is needed is bigger, so it may slow down the process. But the other thing that I wanted you to know is about the opacity slider, right? So opacity, if we go down, we'll just make the model disappear, right? It will be transparent. But if we want to, if we go to the higher values, to the 1, for example, then it will be fully opaque, right? And there won't be any parts which are transparent or semi-transparent, right? So this is important because very often we're able to adjust the image so that we see what the doctor wants to see simply by manipulating those 2 sliders. So this is very helpful. Another thing that is here is a gradient. So this is a slider which amplifies the colors on the edges. So maybe, I don't know if it's that visible in here. It boosts like the color also over here, and not only on the edges, but there are some models where this is very visible. And I wouldn't like go up to 2000 just to the maximum value, but amplifying it by a tiny bit sometimes gives you a better overall effect. And the last slider that we have here is jitter. This was like an option to remove some smaller artifacts. Artifacts are like small parts which are not crucial, but for example, it could have appeared because of the image acquisition wasn't performed like accurately, or some dust was in. Just some small things that we want to remove. So we can play with this, but mostly in the echocardiography files. Okay, so what other things are important in here? Lighting is quite important, I believe. Here we have a shadow slider, and as you see, as I'm boosting it up, it adds a little bit of shadow. I wouldn't go to like also the maximum value, because maybe it looks a bit better for some of us, but it also like obscures the view. So sometimes it's good to actually ask the doctor if he wants a little bit of shadow, or just adjust it a tiny bit, okay, and ask him if it's a bit better right now. And if he says that it's better, then just leave it like that. We have a different modes of lighting. So we have a fast one and a real one. So the real one will be way more like computationally heavy. The fast one and the auto, I believe the auto is in the fast mode, so it just allows you to have a basic lighting, which is pretty good as well. The sliders below it make the light brighter or dimmer, right? As I'm just changing it right now. We have a slider which tells you which changes the strength of the diffuse lighting as well as the specular lighting. So diffuse lighting is like on the rough surfaces, on the mud surfaces. So for example, you have a table and it reflects some light, right? So this would be the diffuse lighting and also the strength of it. And the specular lighting is when you, for example, have a glossy surface and you're shining a light on it and it reflects the light. There is the light is focused in a place, and you can also change the focus value in here and the strength of the overall specular lighting. Basically, the principle is similar as in, for example, photography. You don't want to have the overblown areas. So overblown meaning that there are like white or a different color stains where you're seeing only one color, right? So overblown area would be like this, because we don't see what is in here. If I turn it down, I'm seeing a texture, a surface in here, right? So we don't want the lighting to be too heavy, but also we don't want it to be like very dark, because then the model looks a bit worse. And we're also able to change the color of the lighting. So for example, here, after I click the white square, next to the diffuse and the specular text, I can change those colors, right? So for example, as you see, I'm moving and changing the color. So let it be, for example, like blue, and then I'm amplifying the color. So this is like the output of the color of the model and of the color of the light, right? So we want to go back to the white one, and then the specular one as well. We can change a different one and play. Okay, but this is just like so that you know what is in this part of the image. Okay, what other options do we have? We have a tab which is planes tab, and the planes come from the cutting planes. So this is a very important feature. We very often use it. And this allows you to cut the model from different perspectives, so to say. So let's start from the very basic ones. We have a axial, coronal, and sagittal radio buttons, right? So what this means is that it either cuts like, horizontally, vertically, and like, in another dimension as well, right? So as I'm rotating it here, I can see that it's cut from this side, coronal from this side, right, from the front, and then axial from the top. So usually normally it's after you click it, it's cutting the model in half, but also we're able to just move the cutting plane using this slider. So it's in a 50 as in 50%. And as you're moving the slider, you're actually cutting through the model, right? So you can see the inside of the heart, the chambers, and just the different parts of the model. There is also an option to cut it from the other side, right? Because we see that it's coming like from this side, right? And we want it to go from the left. We click on the inverted checkbox, and then we're cutting from the other side, right? And the principle is the same for cutting from the coronal, right? So I'm moving the plane, and after I click inverted, it's cutting from the other side, right? Okay, and the same is for the axial. So we're cutting from the top to bottom, and after I click inverted, we're cutting from bottom to top. Okay, so by default, you'll have it on the none. There are also other cutting planes. So for example, the normal one. The normal one is a cutting plane which is always parallel to the screen plane, right? So see that as I'm rotating the model, the cutting plane is always like looking at my screen. It's in the same plane, and just by rotating the model and not rotating, or actually just by it's aligning to my screen, so it's cutting from the perspective which I'm looking at, and we're also able to move it. So see that it's like in here and in here, and as I'm moving the slider, we're moving the plane, and we're able to cut deeper or cut less from the position that we're looking. Okay, so the inverted option also works with this. So as you can see, it changes the position from which we're cutting. But you may ask, for example, what happens when okay, I see this is the perfect position, or this is the perfect position, and I want to rotate the model, but I want the plane to stay in place, to be locked, right? So we have the locked checkbox, then the color of the plane changes. And now, as I'm clicking in this model, the cutting plane is blocked, right? So I can zoom in, I can, rotate the model, and it will stay in place, and I can just look at it and just take a closer look at how is this visible, right? Okay, so this is the log, this is the normal, and then we have also a manual. So a manual plane, it's in a pink color, and then after I click the plane, after I click with the left mouse button in this 3D view, I'm moving the cutting plane, right? So this is another option of cutting. This one is a bit harder to like understand and control. So the most commonly used are the three ones from the from the left, from the top, and from the front. So axial, coronal, sagittal, and the normal cut. These are the ones that we are using most commonly. And the last thing is here the outline. So those corners are marked over here, and we can just click on the checkbox to disable it, and it will just disappear, right? So sometimes it just obscures the view, so we can disable it and we can turn it back if we decide that we want to see the boundaries of the model. Okay, so these are the cutting planes. We've gone through the views, as I believe. And there are also filters in here. So we have different ways of filtering the data, right? So the most commonly used ones are the median filter. So for example, after you change it, nothing happens, right? Because the strength of the filter is set to 0. In order for it to, change the way that the image looks like, we need to increase the power. And as you see, some parts of the model are disappearing because of the approximation, which is, cutting the smaller color values, so to say. Right, so you can adjust it over here. We have also a threshold filter, which just filters the values which are outside of the lower and upper boundary. So you're able to adjust the way that the image looks like. These are a bit more complicated things. We're playing with them when the part on the image that we want to see is not very well visible. Then we can apply the filters. Or, for example, we use them very often in the echocardiography. So most commonly median and Gaussian filter to filter out the artifacts which come from the echocardiography machines. Okay, so these are those things. Okay, I believe that we'll make a short break in a moment, but just to end before the short break, I'd like to say some things about the histogram over here. Sorry, Marcel?
Okay.
Yeah, so we have this another window, which you saw here, which is called a histogram, right? So this is like a graph of all the values that we have in this picture, in this model. And you can see that basically everything which is inside of the histograms window is visible right now. So if I move it to the right, almost nothing is visible, right? All those values which are present here are outside of the histogram window, and therefore they are not visible. But if I move it back, more and more of the image is coming back, and some other parts are visible as well. Okay, and we can move the window by clicking it with the left mouse button and just dragging it left and right. But also we can change the width of the window. So we can do that either by clicking the boundaries of the window and just making it, come together. Okay, we can adjust it here on the histogram window. Or the other way that we're doing it is by right-clicking the 3D view. I'm right-clicking right now, and I'm moving right to left.
For bem para a esquerda, lá aparece tudo, né?
okay? And then okay, and then there is also a possibility of making it narrower by like moving the window, the mouse down, or wider by putting it up, right? By moving it up. So this is something which we are using very often. Histogram window is like the first thing which we're adjusting when we don't see some parts of the images, right? So some small corrections just to adjust the visibility of the model. Of course, you can reset the histogram window if you change it, right? Resetting it to the default position. If you want to reset it to the default position of the given transfer function, you just need to switch to the other transfer function, switch it back, and it's in the correct place. So histogram, very important in here, and this is also one of the windows which are by default pinned to the main view. So this means that see over here, we have a arrow on the top and the arrow on the bottom. By clicking it, we're changing the order of the windows, but the pinned windows, the one with the blue pin icon, I can unclick it and it will be unpinned, right? And I can, for example, pin the HoloLens view, and then all of those unpinned windows will cycle through. All right, so let me just unpin it, pin it here, and go back to the default view that we have. It is also possible to make the other windows the main one, so the biggest one. By double clicking the view, it just changes its place with the main window, right? So after I double click the Excel, it appears as a main window. After I double click the 3D view, it appears as the main view. Okay, let's maybe do I don't know, 5 to 10 minutes break for now, if it's good with everybody.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay. So let's give us 10 minutes, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so see you in 10.
Marcel?
Sim.
Pode parar a gravação, depois eu faço a edição dela, tá? Ou se quiser deixar gravando também, tá? Eu vou editar essa gravação depois, tá? E tirar essas partes aí que nós conversamos, o que não interessa, cara, que eu vou